Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my full review, the digitally digested segment, for the Asus ROG Ally. Now this retails for $699 US. I'll include a link in the description. And in full disclosure, this was not furnished to me by the manufacturer. I purchased this, and I do think I can tell all of you this right here at the top of the video, that this is the best device of its kind here in 2023. From a hardware standpoint, pricing standpoint, and ultimately because it runs Windows. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be the best device for you. For some of you, obviously the Steam Deck, which I've owned since launch, is the better device simply because you do not have to put up with Windows 11, which means no Windows updates, no getting spammed by antivirus software. You see where I'm going. Also, no fiddling in order to get the best performance possible, like you inherently will here, because after all, the experience is going to be the same as what you are probably accustomed to with your regular gaming PC or laptop. So, all of that aside, at $700, what are you getting? Best-in-class hardware, and not just for a device of this nature. 7-inch Full HD, 120 hertz IPS panel that, in my opinion, is better than the display on the Steam Deck, even though I'm shying away from comparisons. 500 nits of brightness. We have, of course, the star of the show is the AMD CPU under the hood, which the Z1 Extreme based on Zen 4 architecture really makes this thing as competent as pretty much any laptop on the market now, which is pretty insane when you think about the performance that it's able to deliver. 16 gigs of RAM, a half terabyte Gen 4 NVMe 2230 SSD that you can upgrade, but you'll see if you need to. We also have a micro SD card slot right here at the top. Your XG Mobile ability to upgrade this, which is a great thing, although I don't really recommend it, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. Your Type-C port is built into that XG Mobile port. Then we've got volume rockers, status LEDs, and your power button. All of your ventilation is up here at the top. It doesn't get that loud. Nothing at the bottom to share with all of you. And if I flip it around to the back, not a hell of a lot to show there either. And, whether or not you're going to actually enjoy the experience with the controller itself that's built into it is purely a matter of personal preference, and I'm not going to weigh in on that too much. I enjoy it, but my opinion isn't necessarily going to line up with your physical experience with it. As you may have noticed, I've disabled the RGBs, not a big fan of that. Don't need another reason to get distracted when I'm trying to focus on a 7-inch display. But the performance is best in class. The Armory Crate I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with because it is slightly bloated. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. But that's in a general sense. With the Ally, I do think it does work very well. You want to create profiles, you can. Different, obviously, operating modes as usual. I am presently in turbo mode. And just to discuss benchmarking, something you can't even do really with the Steam Deck, again, because you're running on Steam OS, you see Time Spy yielding a phenomenal score, over 3,000. I mean, it's ridiculous for me to say best in class in this footprint. It's best in class among really the majority of Ultrabooks. If you have a laptop that is like over 2 years old, in all likelihood, the Steam Deck, the Asus ROG Ally is likely going to outperform it. Even though it doesn't have a discrete GPU, it still is just that good in terms of the Zen 4 architecture. And if you want to save $100 over this Extreme, the Z1 Extreme version, they do have the non-Extreme version priced at $599, just something to be aware of. Now, when it comes to battery life, we're looking at a whopping 2 hours or less when gaming on this. So the same constraints that any gaming laptop would have apply here. No surprise. But the beauty is this thing charges up very quickly with the included charger. And even though it's not ideal to upgrade it, the only thing you'll probably want to upgrade is that 2230 half terabyte NVMe drive. The micro SD card slot has been known to have some issues. I personally have not experienced any of those issues, but they are well documented on the internet. I'm not going to focus too much on them. If you're going to do some emulation, the micro SD card slot makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, I stay away from using micro SD card slots for storage expansion because it's really just, a better than nothing, far from ideal situation, especially when you have a Gen 4 NVMe under the hood that does perform very well. Now, when it comes to gaming, as I've stated, that CPU is best in class. So It's amazing how far we've come in 2023. I mean, for mobile computing, we have this device, we've got the Steam Deck at a lower price point that is also excellent, and then you have gaming tablets. I mean, real PCs like the Z13 stuffed into a 13.5-inch tablet. So we have come a really long way, but as I stated, they all suffer from the same Achilles heel, which is battery life. So if you think you're going to take this on a plane and play games for, the course of an 8-hour flight to Europe from, let's say, New York, that's not going to happen. If you can plug in, it'll happen, but it's not going to happen on battery power. That's just as efficient as things have become. That's still a limitation of the technology we're working with. Now, I mentioned the NVMe, but before I get there, just to go over, Red Dead Redemption 2, at least within Time Spy, is the most demanding title that they show. And at 1080p Ultra, you can see 40 plus frames per second. And that's something I can confirm. Completely playable, and that is amazing for a handheld device. I mean, Red Dead is really quite a resource hog in general, because when we look at the other titles that they just spit out, like even Battlefield 5, which over 65 frames at 1080p Ultra. And if I, drop down to something like GTA, I mean, that's going to be a joke, over 150. So drink that in. This thing is going to chew up and spit out most titles you throw at it. Now, brand new AAA titles, no. I cannot tell you that this is going to act like it has a discrete GPU, because it's not. From a battery life standpoint, it'll certainly act like it has a discrete GPU, but that's it. And when it comes to, the physical controller experience, again, I find it perfectly fine, but some of you are going to find it to be different. Maybe you're not going to like it. Maybe you're going to prefer the buttons on the Steam Deck or the way the joysticks feel. But I'm telling you now, from a hardware standpoint, this thing is the beast to own. Now, in spite of everything I said about how great the hardware is, how well it performs, all of that stuff, I still don't know that this is the device that everybody should be buying. And I say that as I bring up the stat for, again, that 0.5 terabyte NVMe Gen 4 drive. You can see it's putting up numbers like any Ultrabook you would buy today in the market that has a Gen 4 drive would deliver. And that's the beauty of this device. I mean, you're going to be able to play whatever games you want and then run Windows software without it feeling like it's a compromise. Yes, you'll be missing a keyboard. The good news is Windows 11, the touchscreen experience is very good. That's not something I can say for other devices out there. And I actually think the touchscreen experience here is better than the Steam Deck because of the high refresh display. If you're with me, browsing the web, anything like that is going to be a more enjoyable experience on this device. And most games, you're not going to hit 120 hertz with, obviously, but the fact that you have that potential, that already is, in my opinion, a great thing to have on the spec sheet. Now, when it comes to usability and whether or not you should be keeping something like this, even though I already stated it's the best device of its kind in 2023, I do feel that these ultra mobile PCs being refashioned as quote unquote consoles is a bit deceptive. And that's not to say that, millions of you aren't enjoying playing your PC games on the couch or out and about. You are. Don't get me wrong. But to pretend like these are, the first time or the first iteration of portable gaming-centric PCs, I mean, ultra-mobile PCs have been around forever, and they've never really taken off as much as I love them. And I can tell you right now, I am returning the Ally when I'm done with this video. And the reason being is that as much as I enjoyed it and actually kind of loved it when it launched, it got me thinking, where else, if I wanted another portable solution for gaming, which would it be? How could I better invest the $700 that I invested in this? And part of the logic that comes from is that we're running Windows 11. So again, I'm reminded this is a PC at the end of the day that just happens to look like a gaming console, but it's really not a gaming console, even though hitting the Armory Crate button and going to the game library takes you into what feels like a console. And then if you run Steam Big Picture, again, it feels like a console. But at the end of the day, it is just a PC, right? And anyone who's a PC gamer knows your PC is not a console. So, I mean, it's a matter of how you look at things, I guess, frame of mind. But let's talk about, long term with this. It's amazing that we can upgrade the graphics performance with that XG Mobile. I'm going to disconnect this because we don't actually need it. It's amazing that we can do that, right? It's really, I think, amazing for the entire Asus lineup that supports it, like the Z13 in the background, because it means that In a year or two, if you want more performance, you won't have to buy a new machine. You can just invest in one of the XG Mobile GPU hubs, essentially replacing the eGPU standard, which we can't do with this, which is unfortunate. But that's also because it's an AMD machine, not just because of the XG Mobile proprietary connection. But what I'm getting at here is that if you spend $1,000 or $1,500 on getting an XG Mobile hub for this, I can't help but feel like that is a waste. And I say that because for that same price, as I bake in that cable, you could be getting something like the acronym, or at least the 4050 or 4060 model of the Z13. And hear me out on this. As part of my full review, you're going to end up spending over $2,000, or at least a little under $2,000, and that instead would get you a device not like the Acrim necessarily, but maybe the 4050 that I'm also reviewing, version of the Z13, which is going to absolutely destroy this. I mean, just in Time Spy, you're talking about moving from that, slightly over 3,000 score to over 8,000. It's going to unlock a world of capability in gaming that this thing could only dream of. You will get, of course, front-facing and rear cameras. You're going to get so many more things. It's a real computer, and by that I mean it doesn't have the ergonomic issues this has either. Yes, it doesn't have a built-in controller, but just bring a controller, right? Still incredibly portable back there at under 3 pounds, and you're still using a Type-C 130-watt brick, so still fairly lightweight in that department, not as small as the included brick with this, but that's because this doesn't have the ability to take on as much power as the Z13 lineup. And again, after all is said and done, you'll have something that is much more enjoyable to game on with a 13.5-inch display. You'll have a CPU-GPU combo that's going to last you much longer without adding an XG Mobile to your lineup. And if you want, of course, down the road, you still can get an XG Mobile for, your Z13 or X13 that is going to upgrade it down the road when it's become a little bit more sluggish in the face of new games and its old architecture. So, again, I feel like this is a phenomenal device, but it inadvertently ended up leading me towards the Z13 line and saying, hey, this is incredibly powerful, incredibly small, and it's amazing, but is that more to my speed from an ergonomic standpoint, overall functionality, capability, and the fact that it really is a laptop at the end of the day? And the answer is yes, because while this thing is fantastic and traveling with it is fun, and you do have a PC, you don't have a PC you'll really want to do work on, right? It's another item you'll be carrying. That's part of my logic here that I'm sharing with all of you, is that when this goes into my bag, I'm probably still going to want to bring a laptop. It's just nice that this does run Windows, but it would never be the only machine I would take with me on a trip. And that means that I'm going to need more devices. But with something like the Z13 that you're seeing in the background, I do not need more devices. It is the Ally. It is a traditional laptop or a Surface Pro. And then it's also a gaming laptop because of the 4070 under the hood, or of course the 4060 or 4050. And at that 65-watt TGP, it still is phenomenal. I mean, the acronym is benching over 10,000. Think about that. And the only way you're going to supersede, or I should say surpass, the acronym would, and right now it's not even possible, even if you were to set this up with the 4090, I think you're going to have very similar performance. It's not going to be, there will be parity, let's put it that way. It's going to be comparable. But you will have spent, roughly the same amount of money, and you have something that's one device that does it all. So something I just wanted to throw in there because I love the Ally, and I think it's great that ultra-mobile PCs have come so far just because the Steam Deck, had great popularity, and I'm glad for that. But I do think these devices are a trend, and I'm not sure that they're going to last as long as some people might think, which means a long-term investment in these might be a wishy-washy thing. Now, again, I think that they have their use case scenarios, and I think they're great devices, but I just put this out there because this is where my ROG Ally path appears to have come to a close, is that it just led me to a more functional investment of my money that's still incredibly lightweight, but much more dynamic, and of course running Windows 11 Pro. So it's all a matter of personal preference. Again, the ROG Ally is the best device of its kind. You know its limitations. You know the headaches are going to be the same as with a traditional gaming machine in the PC realm. And, well, if you don't want that, you know the direction to go. It's the Steam Deck. But, not being able to play Rust and a handful of other titles or run regular software, that will always bring me back to the Ally. And now the Ally brought me to the Z13. And that's my Ally story. What can I tell you? Phenomenal product. Kudos to Asus on this. It's smart. Certainly better than the Steam Deck. But I do think your money is better invested in something like the Z13 if, again, ultimate portability and performance are at the top of your list. Yes, you're not going to game with this on the couch with the way you would with this, but I can't see that as a justification. Also, I have major neck problems, for anyone that doesn't know it, who's new to the channel, getting ready for major surgery. And I'll be the first to tell you that even if I didn't have the neck problem, I still would not be prone to really wanting to play this for long periods of time with the way you have to inherently stare down. I think it's terrible for you. Not I think, I know it's terrible for you. And of course, if you're gaming on something like the Z13, you don't have to worry about that. So that's another limitation, physically speaking, with regard to the Ally or the Steam Deck that I think just makes them incredibly, impractical. But for long-term use, that is. I mean, if you spend 3 hours plugged in gaming on one of these, you're going to feel it physically. You're not going to really feel it playing it at a desktop, an Xbox, or of course, something portable like that, or a regular gaming laptop. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, power banks, because I know a lot of you have invested in them to power this, and those are, it's a good idea because, with these you'll get more than enough wattage to power your Ally or Steam Deck. So definitely nice to have one with 100 watt delivery. You don't need 100 watts here, and that's the beauty of the Ally. You can change the power thresholds, the tolerances. You can try to overclock. I mean, I don't recommend it. I think this delivers enough just as it is stock. The only thing I see upgrading, if this is what you want in life, is, again, that half terabyte NVMe SSD. Just remember, 2230 only. I think Sabrent has some affordable 2 terabyters out there if that's what you're looking for. But I personally wouldn't invest a single dollar personally in the Ally beyond what it is, because to me, it really is just a purchase for that portable PC gaming experience, and that is it. And so any more money you put into this thing, I feel like is a bottomless pit, a black hole, if you will, because I already explained that this plus an XG Mobile is the price of a better functioning Z13. Food for thought, but that is my full review of the Asus ROG Ally. Don't sleep on it if what you're looking for, again, is an incredibly powerful ultra-mobile PC that happens to be a gaming controller. But if you're looking for more out of a Windows 11 experience, but still keeping it lightweight, you've got a lot of options at this price point. I mean, even regular gaming laptops can be had for roughly $700 to $800 that, again, will blow this away. But it's a matter of how much, of course, this incredibly small, lightweight form factor is what you're really after. And I do think that it is a warranted piece of hardware. I just wonder how much of this is really about just what's trending and a fad that may go away as quickly as it has arrived. And I hope that doesn't happen, because I love ultra-mobile PCs, and I have hope now that maybe we're going to see ultra-mobile PCs, not just gaming handhelds like the Ally and the Steam Deck. So here's to hoping that that occurs over time, but otherwise I can easily recommend the Asus ROG Ally. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them at that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.